It's me, Lois, and welcome to my channel, Lois Codes, where I talk about coding tips, tricks, cool finds, and everything else I'm learning on my journey into programming. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest. I participated last year, but I didn't take it very seriously. I decided to participate about 6 days before it ended. I did manage to get 2 PRs done, but clearly that wasn't enough. I'm proud to say that I did better this year. I got a lot more done, and I learned a lot too. Today we're going to be focusing on 6 things I learned contributing to open source. Let's begin. Number 1, make sure you're assigned the issue. If you're not assigned the issue, then it's fair game. I came across this before where I said I would take on this issue. I didn't start it right away, probably 2-3 hours, and within that time frame, somebody else already created a PR and asked for a review. Luckily, I hadn't started on it, so I didn't really waste any time working on something like that. Number 2, merge conflicts. I got really cocky with a merge conflict, and that's always the hardest thing for me. Not so much doing merge conflicts, but getting really cocky, thinking I know exactly what should be fixed inside of my PR. I actually did have a PR for hacktoberfest where I thought that I knew exactly what needed to be merged, and I was completely wrong. And luckily the maintainer fixed it, but also unfortunately that did not count towards my total PR because they fixed my commits and it didn't quite seem like I actually contributed anything, even though on GitHub it does show that I contributed. But c'est la vie, life happens. 3. Number 3, learning new tools, technologies, frameworks, libraries, what have you. There were a few PRs that I did where I either knew something of the technology because I've done it before, or I knew nothing. I just saw the issue, it read like it made sense to me. I didn't quite read the documentation, or at least read and see what kind of frameworks and technologies were being used, and I signed up. The only thing that I was really focused on was whether or not I could do it on my Mac, or if it was only something I could do on Windows. There were some that I was trying to contribute to that I realized just before I started creating my PR and actually diving into the code that I needed a Windows machine. So luckily I didn't waste too much of my time trying to fix an issue that I straight up could not do. Reading documentation is so important. Just make sure that you understand the technology or that you know how to set it up. If you're not 100% comfortable, at least make sure that there are proper steps laid out in the documentation so that you know how to actually set it up on your machine. Luckily for me, for a few of the PRs I worked on, the documentation was pretty thorough. I had a few hiccups, but just a few keystrokes on Google helped me fix those problems. 4, I made a list a while back on helpful tips in creating a commit message. You can find the link down below, and the image should pop up over here-ish. What really helped was actually adding in the issue number inside of my commit message so that I can link the issue with my PR. That made it easier for the maintain to reference that PR, and I didn't have to go inside the issue and say, hey, can you check my PR? They were already connected. But I also just let them know that the PR was done just to get them that notification, to get that email, so they can look at it sooner because I am impatient. Number 5, testing. Make sure that you're testing. Verify that you know how the steps to create the bug. And then once when you verify the steps to create the bug, once when you finish writing all of the code to fix the bug, you can go through those steps again to make sure that that bug is fixed. Once when you verify that that bug is fixed, try and break it. See if you've introduced another bug or if you've introduced other issues anywhere else in the application. Again, it does help to read the code so that you know that that particular part that you fixed is only exclusive in that area. But it doesn't hurt to just do a little bit of spot testing to make sure that you're not introducing any additional bugs or any other issues. And also, sometimes they do have a test suite, and if they do, add some tests to it so that when they get the PR, they can actually verify or at least run those tests to make sure that the code you've created is good, clean code. Number 6, ask questions. Sometimes issues are not written out that well. It could just simply say delete task. Delete what task? Like, what am I doing exactly? I understand this API, but there are tons of things that are considered tasks, so what exactly do you want me to delete? It doesn't hurt to ask those questions, but again, to point 1, if you haven't been assigned that issue, then time really isn't on your side. What I do is that I try and finish it based off of everything that they've laid out in the documentation and everything that they've laid out in the issue, because oftentimes the issues are pretty thorough that I don't really need to ask any additional questions. Somebody that I've worked with told me, think of the person reviewing your PR as a sociopath who has your address. The last thing you want to do is make them angry. Make sure that your PR is up to standard, up to code, and it's everything that they're looking for in a pull request. Well, those are my 6 tips for contributing to open source. It was really enjoyable contributing, and I had a lot of fun doing Hacktoberfest. Were you able to contribute to Hacktoberfest? What are some things that you learned contributing to Hacktoberfest? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon, but until then, go forth and push code. Be strong.